can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
ESBR Boxing, we are back, myself and Paul Kelly. That usually means one thing, it does again this time. It means we're back here in preview mode, previewing obviously some great fights that are taking place over the weekend. But before we get into all that, I'd like to say like and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, we've got all your boxing needs up and under one roof. Not only have we got previews, we've got reviews, big fight breakdowns, interviews with fighters, event footage, all that good stuff. So please like and subscribe to the channel and check all that out. But Paul, thank you very much for joining me. As always, we are down in the featherweight division for this preview. WBC International Featherweight title actually is on the line for this one. A man obviously that you know well, a man that fight fans know well, Mick as he fights Jack Bateson. So obviously, we're going to get into pick out some of the themes of that fight and maybe the division, featherweight division as we go on for this video. But my first sort of question to you really is if you could just give a kind of thoughts, comments, predictions of this fight, how you see it going. And then obviously, if you with prediction of the victor, but also how you see it ending, whether it be points, whether it be knockout, what sort of stage of the fight. If you'd like to just give us that impression, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Always a pleasure doing these previews with you. Yeah, I mean, obviously as a Belfast man, it's good to see Mick back in the ring. Yeah, I think there's no secret that he's past his best probably. Had a few damaging defeats, kind of in that maybe that trio of like Lee Wood, Josh Warrington, where they've all had good careers, but maybe slightly past their best now. Obviously Conlan hasn't won a world title like the other two have, but kind of in the same bracket for me. But yeah, good to see him back. This Jack Bateson obviously only that one defeat, and it was a last round stoppage to Shabazz Masood, which Masood looked sensational since then, so it's decent enough company. I do, however, feel that Jack Bateson is tailor made for Mick Conlan. I think that yeah, I think that there is a gap in levels between the two here. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's gonna blow Bateson away, but I do expect Conlan to win. Not a huge puncher, does have a few knockouts on his resume, but not a huge puncher by any stretch. Conlan, I think that he maybe box safety first because we have seen when he does get clipped, I think his chin perhaps has gone. So I think he might take a safety first approach and beat Jack Bateson via quite a wide unanimous decision. So I'm going for Mick Conlan to win via a fairly wide points decision, but competitive enough, but quite a safe fight. But yeah, Conlan points. How do you see it?
Yeah, you know what? I can't really add too much to that. I totally agree with everything you said there. I think Jack Bateson is tailor made for Conlan. I think you like with Conlan, what you don't want to do is put him obviously in with like a big puncher, and Jack Bateson isn't that. 6 KOs in 20 fights. I still think Conlan's got enough possibly to. Well, I think he's got enough to beat Jack Bateson, to be perfectly honest with you. But I do agree with you that the best days are behind Mick Conlan. I think some people, myself included, are actually wondering whether he'd retire. Actually, after that last loss, that Jordan Gill loss, I thought actually maybe it might be time for Mick Conlan to call it a day, but he's still going. So yeah, I think this is he's got enough here to be honest with you to come through this one. But I suppose we want to pick up on that thread really about Conlan, and maybe look at some other guys who again you could argue another fighter that you might think might possibly have retired at this stage as well, and that is Josh Warrington. One of those guys to fight off again. Josh Warrington kind of tailor-made a bit for Conlan in the sense that again, not a big puncher. So you're maybe looking at that fight again. That should arguably go the distance as well. But for that fight to happen next, how would you have that fight going? Would you have Conlan beating Josh Warrington? Do you have Warrington beating Conlan? How do you see that one if it was a kind of sort of last hurrah for both fighters?
Yeah, I really don't know how I would see that fight playing out, to be perfectly honest, mate. That's it's I'm gonna do some true fence sitting here and say I have no idea because I don't know what either man has left. What I will say is, and I don't know whether this is an exclusive to some people, at a local small hall boxing show that I was at recently. Shout out to Mark Dunlop and Colin Murphy show at the Girdwood Hub in Belfast. Sean O'Hagan, Josh Warrington's dad, was there. The cornering some guy. And Mick Conlan turned up for about an hour as well. And Sean O'Hagan said to Mick Conlan, I'll see you in December. So I don't know whether then this fight is going to happen. If Ida Conlan beats Jack Bateson, it looks like it could be fighting Josh Warrington before the end of the year, around Christmas time. So it's a good fight. I think it's a perfect fight for both, really. It's like, the loser leaves town kind of thing. Whoever loses between Conlan and Warrington is retiring, let's be honest. I think they both know that as well. Um, so yeah, I think I would probably actually edge Warrington at this stage, to be honest, mate, still, just because of the work rate. But in saying that, Conlan's only really, I don't think he has the power to trouble or hurt Conlan. So I'm kind of thinking, would Conlan outbox Warrington? I don't know. depends how he looks against Bates. And I'd probably say Warrington right now, but if Conlan looks at a vintage Conlan against Jack Bateson, it probably would sway me the other way.
You know what? I actually totally agree with you again there. I was asking that question thinking I'm not going to take this one on myself, first and foremost, because I also kind of, it's one of them where you don't really know, do you? Like they're kind of at the similar stages of their career, and they're kind of being obviously very carefully managed and very carefully pitched against people they can probably kind of win to get that final sort of payday. But both way past their prime, I think it's obviously fair to say. But I think I would lean. Again, yeah, like you say, depending on this performance from Conlan, I probably at the moment would lean maybe slightly towards Conlan, just because I think maybe he's still got a little bit more than Josh Warrington. But again, I think it'd be a 12-round fight, to be honest with you. Don't see either man stopping the other one. It'd be a sort of points decision, but I just edge maybe towards Conlan. But again, I'm not that confident with that. And if someone's going to turn around, from Leeds and say, I think Josh Warrington beats Conlan on points, I would say fair play to you. I hope that can also happen. But let's just pick up on one final one. This is obviously your man. You're a big champion of this fighter on the channel, and you know who I'm going to say. Obviously, another guy who really lost last time out against Anthony Kakachi, but it's also been really kind of inactive. Really, hasn't he? Really since the Warrington victory, there's a lot of inactivity. Then that's Lee Wood. Lee Wood versus Conlan, obviously a rematch of the fight where Lee Wood prevailed. Obviously in that epic, that epic stoppage in the last round against Conlan there in the fight that he was arguably losing Lee Wood. If that fight was to happen again, both guys obviously past their best. I think it's fair to say they're obviously coming towards the end of their career in Lee Wood's case as well. How would you have that one? Would you have that one as Lee Wood again, 2-0, or would you have the chance where Conlan? Do you see a chance where Conlan could prevail in that one as well?
Mate, I just think there would be a lot of scar tissue still there from in Conlan's side, where like at least that was I think the undoing of Mick Conlan really, because he was well up, winning the fight, really had Wood hurt early on as well, had him on the deck in the first round, and yeah, obviously got brutally stopped in the dying seconds of the last round, and like I don't think he's been the same since then, Mick Conlan. So I think there would be a bit of scar tissue there. I think there would be, there a massive advantage psychologically for Lee Wood, even though he was stopped last time out by Anto Kakache. I would still favour Lee Wood to get the job done, probably being down on the cards again, but somehow finding a way to get the stoppage. He's just that type of guy. I know he wasn't great against Kakachi, but he did have a few maybe moments. Um, and he was fighting one of the best in the super featherweight division at the minute. In Anto Kakachi, just on the rise that he's had in his past couple of years. So I would probably still back Lee Wood to get the job done, probably via stoppage. But as I said, Conlan could be well up, winning arguably every round, and then maybe just get clipped again because I do think there's maybe a bit of psychological damage from the Wood fight. But I'm not saying that with any confidence, mate. These fights that we've talked about, no confidence either way. Like they're all kind of 50-50s in my eyes.
Yeah, you know what? I think you actually hit the nail on the head there again. When you say about that was almost the unraveling of Conlan. That was the unraveling of Conlan, wasn't it? Really, that Lee Wood loss. To be honest, he comes so close to sort of descending the summit and then get sort of stopped so brutally at the very end of a fight when you've sort of got it kind of tactically spot on, really. Leading quite wide going to the last round. I think that was the unraveling of him. I think, like you, I think Lee Wood, I'd probably have Lee Wood to win just because he's got A, that equaliser in power, and B, we kind of saw him, obviously, obviously, like I said, he's past his best, didn't at the best against Kakachi, but equally, when he fought the likes of Lara, he also showed different styles as well. He showed that he could go long, he could fight differently. So I think, I would still have Lee Wood beating Michael Conlan, but again, it's like you say, that carousel now. It's almost like who's aged the best, who's still got enough left in the tank, actually, arguably, rather than kind of who you rate as the sort of best in the primes. But Paul, thank you very much for joining me, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, we are here obviously to talk about Mick Conlan versus Jack Bateson. We have Conlan winning on points, both myself and Paul. That's a unanimous lock. So if you want to head down to the bookies to put that on, please do bet responsibly. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again for more previews soon.
Pleasure as always, mate. Cheers.